Good evening and welcome to Breaking Day News right here on Switch TV. My name is Lincoln Umbogo. Our sign language interpreter is Michael Maithia. We have a lot in line for you tonight, but first, the highlights. Bobi Wine takes on incumbent President Yoweri Museveni in a highly contested Ugandan presidential election. 45-year-old preacher sentenced to 140 years in prison by a Baricho court after he pleaded guilty to defiling his two daughters in Ndia, Kirinyaga County. Did you know that Uganda is Kenya's #1 trading partner in Africa and #3 in the rest of the world? We give you an analysis. We are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. On YouTube, we are live as Switch TV News. Send in your feedback to our SMS line 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wumbogo. Next Ugandan president will be announced in the next 48 hours after polls close today at 5 p.m, with voters furious after being locked out of social media. A close tie is expected between President Yoweri Museveni and opposition opponent Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine. Daniel Karaoke files the report.
Polls have just closed in the Uganda 2021 general elections that have seen music star Bobi Wine take on the sitting president Yoweri Museveni. Ugandans voted in a presidential election tainted by widespread violence that some fear could escalate as security forces try to stop supporters of leading opposition challenger Bobi Wine from monitoring polling stations, with internet access also cut off. Long queues of voters snaked into the distance in the capital, Kampala, despite fears of lower voter turnout. But delays were seen in the delivery of polling materials in some places, including where Bobi Wine voted. The pop star was, however, received at the polling station with the cheers of a crowd and cast his ballot. Decades President Yoweri Museveni, an authoritarian president who has wielded power since 1986, seeks a sixth term against a strong challenge from Wine, a popular young singer turned opposition lawmaker. 9 other challengers are trying to unseat Museveni. The 76-year-old Museveni support has traditionally been concentrated in the rural areas, where many credit him with restoring a sense of peace and security that was lost during the reigns of dictators. Countries pulled out of the international observers a day after President Museveni issued a statement warning the international community against interference of Ugandan's governance issues. With journalists being occasionally harassed and opposition opponents receiving constant threats on his life, fears of voter rigging has spiked across the country as Museveni desires to cling to power. A contested outcome that sparks civil unrest could jeopardize $20 billion investments and derail efforts to revive the coronavirus-battered economy. Results are expected within 48 hours after voting. There were more than 17 million registered voters who were expected to cast their votes today in the country, of 45 million people. A candidate must win more than 50% to avoid a runoff. Daniel Karaoke for Switch TV.
Thank you, Daniel Karaoke. Moving on. Uganda has made it to the polls despite the government ordering internet shutdown hours before election. As Hadia Mosiwa reports, voters have expressed their dismay on the internet blackout.
Long queues were witnessed at polling stations in Uganda as citizens came out in large numbers to fulfill their constitutional obligation. Ugandan authorities stepped up security patrols across the city of Kampala and shut down the internet on social media platforms and messaging apps as voters started in a hotly contested election.
Right now, okay, the only sad thing about on the other side is that we are missing the communication because some lines have been cut off. We don't have internet, so we are lacking communication outside Kampala. We don't know what's going on, but if you call,
I'm very excited on this day because this is the day we've been waiting for. This is the day we've been waiting for the new Uganda, as our prince proposed it. So we are very excited to see what is going on, and people are very
Many Ugandans say the internet shutdown has disrupted a part of their lives since social media has become part and parcel of their daily routine. Some have called it a total blackout since in the last general election held in 2016.
Actually, I'm not happy, and I think majority of the people are not happy because communication, we had become addicted to WhatsApp, Facebook and all that. And all of a sudden, it's blackout and it's no more. So life has become so hard, we cannot communicate to the rest of our people domestically and internationally.
I think it is quite disturbing because we are not getting the information and we are not getting any updates. So it is a bit not fair.
The internet actually brings every person nearer to each other, and we will be getting information from near and far, and actually you find that it would ease the communication and the tallying, the counting, and then updates. But you find that there's a lot of fear factor, maybe by the government, I would say, something that would actually, there's some hidden agenda, but as voters, we think that let us vote in big numbers, maybe would get out the right results as we expect.
As Ugandans experience a pinch of the dark age in this 21st century, most voters hope for a free and fair election as they await the results of today's polls. Hadia Mosiwa for Switch TV.
May peace prevail in Uganda as they await their outcome. Thank you, Hadi Masio, for that story. Elsewhere, a 45-year-old man has been sentenced to 40 years in prison by a Baricho court after he pleaded guilty to defiling his two daughters in Dear, Kirinyaga County. The preacher was brought before Principal Magistrate Anthony Mushigi, who sentenced him to 70 years in prison for 2 counts of incest. The accused was charged that in June 2019, on diverse dates, he defiled and impregnated his 16-year-old daughter, who later gave birth to a girl who is now 7 months old. Take a look. Meanwhile, Machakos Governor Alfred MUTUA has joined the call that Kenya needs a rotational presidential system. Addressing a development meeting with a cross-section of Machakos residents at his office, MUTUA said that the suggestion by President Kenyatta of embracing a system that allows for power to be rotated among different communities should be supported, and that Kenya needs young blood at the helm of the presidency.
Hivi majuzi Rais wetu Uhuru Kenyatta alisema ya kwamba lazima tuangalie nchi yetu, kila jamii ijisikie iko kwa serikali. Na kusema ya kwamba kuna jamii zingine zimetawala na tumetawala vizuri, wacha waachie wengine waendelee kutawala, ndio Kenya kila mtu ajisikie yuko ndani ya serikali. Na si kusema zile zimetawala wanatengwa, hapana, bado wako ndani ya serikali. Lakini ule mkubwa wa serikali atoke pia mahali pengine, ndio wengine waseme kweli Kenya kuna demokrasia. Si akina mama wa Kisii walizaa? Wajaluo wamezaa? Waluya wamezaa? Wakamba wamezaa? Na sisi pia tuna akili. Na kama wameshindwa kwa sababu wanafikiri kuna watu wengine, si waangalie hapa kwa kijana yuko sawa.
National Cohesion and Integration Commission has summoned Kendara Member of Parliament Alice WAHOME to appear before the Commission allegations that she uttered words after the kennel chaos that left 2 dead. The legislators say that she will not appear before the Commission today, citing short notice, adding that the letter is politically influenced and lacks proper charges which can be addressed within the law.
Nimesema ingawa wameniita kesho, notisi yenyewe ni short, ni fupi, waangalie vizuri ndio na mimi niweze kujitetea na kuambia wakili wangu hapa na hapa mimi niliendesha hivi, ndio wasifikirie kukimbia hapo kisiasa itanitisha. Mimi sitakubali kutishwa. Nilisema there was ethnic mobilization after the Keno death. And I also said that during the burial, of those two young men who died after the Keno incidents, there appeared to be ethnic mobilization, and we as leaders have to speak and to talk about it.
One of the stories, the Ministry of Health has today launched a multi-stakeholder platform meant to help in service delivery in the health sector. The platform will be used to advocate for reproductive and maternal health services in Kenya. Namukini Samuel reports.
The Ministry of Health, together with other medical professionals, have today launched a multi-stakeholder platform meant to help in service delivery in the health sector.
See and work towards a realization of more resources for mothers and children. It's a platform that will, for the first time in Kenya, be able to track all the health indicators that touch on our mothers and our children and our adolescents.
This platform will be used to advocate for reproductive and maternal health services in Kenya, whose key role will be to collaborate and coordinate and to ensure intersectional alignment when it comes to investment in reproductive health in Kenya.
We have about 20 mothers dying every day due to childbirth complications. Just yesterday, you're all aware that just 4 people died from COVID within the country.
According to the Partnership for Maternal and Child Health, the maternal mortality rate in Kenya remains high at 488 deaths per 100,000 live births. Around half of Kenya women are delivering in healthcare facilities and only 44% are assisted by a skilled medical professional.
Part of this platform, the idea is to really, one, advocate to ensure more resources are put in place when it comes to maternal care. 2, to ensure that partners are actually investing in the right spaces. And I'm glad as a country we now know where we need to invest. We now know where we have challenges when it comes to delivery. We now know where we have challenges when it comes to ensuring our mothers are getting obstetric services.
The Health CAS has urged Kenyans to seek professional help during childbirth. Namukana Samuel, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Namukani Samuel. Principal secretaries who have toured Murang'a, Kilifi, Tana River and Lamu counties have lauded the Ministry of Education for proper preparations in reopening of schools, reporting proper preparedness of schools to deal with COVID-19 pandemic. However, parents have been warned of dire consequences of if they fail to take their children back to school. The government has assured the country that learners are safe to go back to school. Harad Chime reports.
After reports of children learning under trees, lacking enough desks, lacking water for hand washing, fee increment, and inability to maintain social distancing, the government now says adequate measures to curb coronavirus have been put in place and learners are safe and will be healthy as they continue their education in school.
So wherever you are, if you are of school-going age, whether you are currently in the beach, whether because of the social issues you could have found yourself pregnant in one way or another, or whatever the reason that is, we are asking you to report back to school.
Speaking at St. Andrew's Primary School in Malindi Town, the Regional Development Principal Secretary, Dr. Margaret Mwakima, said that the main challenge is that some students do not report back to schools in fear of contracting COVID-19. She warned parents of dire consequences if found deliberately keeping them away from school.
With the Ministry of Interior, the chiefs, the sub-chiefs, the village elders are on higher alert, and if they found you as a parent holding a child and the child is not going to school, then you will explain, and you will have to ensure that that child goes back to school.
Dr. Mwakima also added that schoolgirls who conceived or have already given birth were being accepted back in school. The PS also said that the government has built extra classrooms, made additional desks and waived school fees in primary schools, and that pupils have no reason whatsoever to be out of school. Meanwhile, Principal Secretary speaking at Murang'a School of Hearing Impaired noted that all schools had achieved and were following all the necessary guidelines.
Then we have also visited the classrooms, as you have seen. We are quite happy the students are all wearing masks.
The PS stated that in Murang'a County, about 2% of learners are yet to report back to school. In Ithanga Secondary School in Gatanga Sub-County, local chiefs have been tasked to find the whereabouts of the learners. In neighboring Mithini Day School, the school is following up on 11 learners who failed to resume school. Harriet Chimea reporting for Switch TV.
Thank you, Harriet Chimea. With our story, we now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. We are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. On YouTube, we are live as Switch TV News. Send in your feedback to our SMS line 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Mumbuku. Now, a family of 7 living at OWINO UHURU SLUM in Mombasa County is counting losses after a fire outbreak that raced down their house yesterday night. The cause of the fire, that is said to have started at 12 a.m., is still unknown. One of the family members, Gabriel Odhiambo, says that they were woken up by a child who had a loud explosion. However, no one was injured during the incident. The family is now left with no place to call home as they spent the night in the cold.
Tukapiga kelele mpaka majirani wakaamka. ikawa ni hivyo tu. Baadaye ndio watu wa fire walikuja baadaye tu, baada ya hiyo nyumba kuungua, baada ya hiyo paa kuanguka chini, ndio hao jamaa wa moto wakaja na polisi.
Sasa hakuna kitu kimeweza kuokolewa hapo hata moja, lakini hakuna mtu amepoteza maisha yake, lakini hakuna kitu kimeokotwa hapo hata moja.
Hakuna hata mahali pa kulala, hakuna hata vile utavaa, vile unaniona hivi ndivyo niko. Nashangaa itakuwa namna gani, hatujui kisa cha moto na nini.
Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump has made history by being the first president in the history of the United States to be impeached twice by the House of Representatives on the charges of sparking the violent protests that rocked the Capitol last week, making this the fourth presidential impeachment in history since Andrew Johnson in 1868 and Bill Clinton in 1998. Our reporter Lillian Miner tells us more.
President Donald Trump has been held responsible for inciting the storming of the Capitol following his inflammatory speech on 6th January this year. When he asked his supporters to make their voices heard and to fight against vote rigging, after which his supporters broke into the Capitol Hill, forcing lawmakers to adjourn the session to approve the victory of President-elect Joe Biden. After a long and heated debate in the Democrat-dominated parliament yesterday, the lawmakers finally cast their final ballot, with 10 Republicans joining their Democrat counterparts to pass the bill by 232 votes against 197 votes, as national security forces tightened security inside and outside the parliament buildings.
The ayes are 232. The nays are 197. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
President Trump, who is a Republican, will now stand trial in the Senate, where he could be banned from holding any public office in future if found guilty. The Senate will, however, not hold a trial before January 20th, when Democrat Joe Biden assumes the presidency. However, Trump will face a Senate trial later, and if convicted, he might be barred in a follow-up vote from seeking the presidency again in 2024. Soon after the impeachment was proclaimed by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, President Donald Trump issued a statement stressing that he strongly condemned the violence witnessed last week and called on his supporters to remain calm.
I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values.
He, however, did not discuss his impeachment. President Trump is expected to vacate office on 20th January following his defeat by Joe Biden in last November's election. However, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, has warned of possible violent protests in all the 50 state capitals ahead of the inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden next week. Emmanuel Terrer, Switch TV.
I'm afraid that was not Lillian Miner, but Emmanuel Terrer. Thank you, Emmanuel Terrer, for that story. It's now time to delve deep into the world of commerce with Clifford Ndobi.
All right, thank you, Lincoln Wambugu. It's time for business and let's get started. My name is Clifford Ndobi. Uganda is Kenya's #1 trading partner in Africa and #3 in the rest of the world. It is an important market for Kenya's industrial goods, with Ugandans coming out in large numbers to vote for the next leader. How has business been with 35 years of Museveni at the helm of the country? We give you an analysis. Passed through the Kenya-Uganda border, this is the link to the landlocked nation that contributes immensely to the growth of the Kenyan economy and vice versa. Kenya exports to Uganda was 624.15 million in 2019. On the other hand, imports netted 515.85 million US dollars in 2018. That is according to statistics derived from the United Nations Comtrade database on international trade. Uganda was the top export destination for Kenya goods in Africa, importing goods worth 61.9 billion in 2018. According to Kenya's Economic Survey of 2019, the value of imports from Uganda to Kenya rose to 49.4 billion from 2018 on account of increased imports of maize, animal feeds, milk and sugar. As Uganda goes to the polls to choose their next leader, the business relationship has not been an easy ride, but Uganda has developed capacity to manufacture and process goods that were originally being imported from Kenya from her own raw materials as well as imported inputs to survive and promote her economic independence. Trade between the two countries has increased on the back of the East Africa Common Market Protocols, which was signed in 2010 and which allows the free movement of goods, people, labor services and capital from one partner state to the other. Now finally, diesel users are expected to see the sharpest increase in the cost at the pump effective Friday this month, with the price of the commodity going up by 4 shillings and 57 cents. All three fuel products have marked an increase in the pricing in the latest maximum price review by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Kerosene prices are set to increase by 3 shillings and 56 cents per litre, while super petrol has only seen a marginal lift in the cost at just 17 cents. The pricing changes are attributable to the continued recovery of the fuel costs in the international markets in the recent months. The average landed cost of diesel, for instance, increased by 13.1% between November and December, ahead of kerosene at 9.3% and super petrol at 1.5%. Right, that story on fuel prices review brings us to the end of the business news this evening. Let's do this tomorrow, no, next week, same time, same place. God bless. Up next is sports news with Lincoln Wambugu. Tonight, Arsenal takes on Crystal Palace. I doubt Arsenal will be winning this match, but Lincoln Wambugu has more to this.
Thank you, Clifford Dobie. Now from the sports desk. Arsenal will be looking to win their 4th consecutive match in the English Premier League when they take on Crystal Palace at the Emirates Stadium tonight. A win for the Gunners will take their tally to 26 points, same as 8th placed